kneeling, bent over me. I could feel her breath upon me. Lower and lower went her head, as the lips went below the range of my mouth. Then I felt the soft, shivering touch of lips on my throat, and two sharp teeth just touching and pausing there. In languorous ecstasy, I waited. At that instant, the Count, in a storm of fury, grasped the fair woman, and with a fierce sweep of his arm, hurled her from him. In a low whisper, he exclaimed, "How dare you touch him when I had forbidden it? Back! I tell you, this man belongs to me. I promise you that when I am done with him, you shall kiss him at your will. Now go!" "Are we to have nothing tonight?" said one of them, with a low laugh. For answer, he pointed to a bag on the floor. One of the women jumped forward and opened it. There was a gasp and a low wail, as of a half-smothered child. And the women closed round. And as I looked, they disappeared into the rays of the moonlight. And with them, the dreadful bag. Then horror overcame me, and I sank down unconscious. I awoke in my own bed. If it was no dream, the Count must have carried me here. 19th of May. Last night, the Count asked me to write another letter saying that I should start for home the next morning from the time of the letter, explaining that posts were few and my writing now would ensure ease of mind to my friends. To have refused would be to excite his suspicion. My only chance is to prolong my opportunities. Something may give me the chance to escape. When I asked him what date I should put on the letter, he answered, June 29th. Now I know the span of my life. God help me. 28th of May. This morning I heard without a cracking of whips and a pounding of horses' feet. I hurried to the window and saw in the courtyard a great lighter wagon driven by a party of Zigani gypsies, with wide hats, dirty sheepskins, and high boots. The wagon contained a great square empty box with handles of thick rope, which the gypsies unloaded and carried away out of my vision. The Zigani are encamped now in the courtyard. I have written to Mina in shorthand, and shall try to have it posted. 30th of May. Today I threw the letter down to the Zigani with a gold piece. The man who took it bowed and put it in his cap. This evening the Count came and sat down beside me, saying in his smoothest voice, "The Zigani have given me this." As he opened my letter, he caught sight of the shorthand symbols and his eyes blazed. "This is a vile thing, an outrage upon friendship and hospitality." And he calmly held letter and envelope in the flame of the lamp till they were consumed. Then he went out of the room. 24th of June, before morning. Last night I again watched the Count emerge lizard fashion from his window. Slung over his shoulder was the terrible bag. There could be no doubt as to his quest. After a couple of hours, I heard from the Count's room a sharp wail, then awful, chilling silence. Suddenly in the courtyard, I heard the agonized cry of a woman. I rushed to the window. There indeed was a woman with disheveled hair, wringing her hands. When she saw my face, she shouted, "Monster, give me my child!" And throwing herself forward out of my vision, she pounded the door. From somewhere above, I heard the harsh whisper of the Count calling. His call seemed to be answered from far and wide by the howling of wolves. Before long, a pack of them poured into the courtyard. There was no cry from the woman, and the howling of the wolves was but short. I could not pity them. for I knew now what had become of her child. And she was better dead.
Yeah, you can breathe out. Damn, what a mess. Can't believe Pope's gone.
29th of June.
Man, this damn city.
Today is the date of my last letter.
Can of worms on this one. Take the
I was in my room when the
Avenue.
Count entered and grimly said, "Tomorrow, my friend, we must
You
part.
ain't got much time.
Your letter home has been dispatched. I shall not be here, but all shall be ready for your journey. In the morning come the Zigani. When they have gone,
They're trying to cut you off the head.
my
Dave.
carriage
Get through 'em,
shall
quick.
come." And with a slight bow, he left the room. I was about to lie down when I heard a whispering at my door. I went to it
You gotta push through to the plaza, Faith. There's
and
a route
listened.
through the tunnels ahead.
Back to your own place, said the voice of the Count. Have patience.
Get to the mayor in your
Tomorrow
line and run, Faith.
He is
You
your...
don't want to know what's behind your Faith. Just keep running.
There was a low ripple of laughter. In a rage, I threw open the door and saw without the three terrible women licking their lips. With a horrible laugh, they ran away. It is then so near the end. Tomorrow.
Who's up ahead? Be careful.
Lord help me. 30th of June. This morning I decided to obtain at any risk the key to the locked entrance door below. The Count might kill me, but death now seems the happier choice of evils. I went straight to the window and at once got outside on the narrow ledge of stone which runs round the building. I made for the Count's window and soon found myself standing at the windowsill. Bending, I slid inside. There was no sign of the Count. The room was empty and covered with dust. At one corner was a heavy door. It was open and led to a dark circular stairway. I descended. At the bottom, a dark tunnel-like passage led to another heavy door which stood ajar. I entered and found myself in an old ruined chapel. I went down the steps into the vaults. There I made a discovery. In the great box which had been brought by the Zigani, on a pile of newly dug earth, lay the Count.
Get out of those canals, Faith. Maybe Jackson.
He was either dead or asleep, I could not say which, for the eyes were open and stony. There was no sign of movement, no breath, no beating of the heart. On the lips were gouts of fresh blood, which trickled from the corners of the mouth. I shuddered as I bent to search him, but no sign could I find of the key. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face. This was the demon I was helping to transfer to London. The very thought drove me mad. Seizing a shovel which lay to hand, I lifted it high and struck edge downward at that hateful face. As I did so, the head turned, and the horrible red eyes fell full upon me. The sight paralyzed me, and the shovel turned and glanced from the face, making a deep gash above the forehead. The shovel fell against the box lid, which dropped shut to hide the horrid thing from my sight. I fled from the place and gained the Count's room. As I did so, I heard without the rolling of heavy wheels and the cracking of whips, the Zigani were coming. I listened and heard downstairs the grinding of a key in a great lock, and the falling back of a heavy door, then the sound of feet tramping. The vaults! I turned to run down again to find the new entrance, but at that moment a violent wind blew the door to with a shock. When I ran to push it open, I found that it was hopelessly fast. I was again a prisoner. As I write, there is the sound of hammering, the box lid being nailed down. Now in the passage below is the sound of a heavy weight being shifted, and heavy feet tramping again along the hall. The door is shut. The key is grinding in the lock.
Those blues won't come down here.
Hark! In the courtyard,
Hey, getting something on the wires.
the roll of heavy
Looks like they
wheels,
anticipated you might duck
and the
in here
crack
and
of
set a
whips
sniper to your
passing
head.
into the distance. I am alone in the castle with those awful women. I shall not remain here. I shall scale the castle wall farther than I have yet attempted. I may yet find a way from this cursed spot. God help me in my task.
Take those snipers out or keep out of their way. Just get
Goodbye,
your ass
Nina.
through there.
If I fail,
They're inside. Get out of there, Faith.
Letter from Mrs. Mina Harker to Miss Lucy Westenra, the 9th of May. Dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing. I have been practicing shorthand and typewriting so that I can be useful to Jonathan in his work. I have just had a few hurried lines from him from Transylvania. He is well and will be returning soon. I am longing to hear his news. You must tell me all your news when you write. I hear rumors of a tall, handsome, curly-haired man. Your loving Mina. Letter, Lucy Westenra, to Mina Harker, 24th of May. Dearest Mina, someone has evidently been telling tales. The tall, curly-haired man is Mr. Arthur Homewood, who comes often to see us. He and Mamma get on very well together. Oh, Mina, couldn't you guess? I love him, and he loves me. My dear, it never rains but it pours. Today I have had 3 proposals from 3 handsome, well-bred gentlemen who are the best of friends. Isn't it awful? I feel truly sorry for 2 of the poor fellows. The first was Dr. John Seward, who has an immense lunatic asylum under his care. The second, Mr. Quincy P. Morris, an American from Texas. I had to tell them both that there was someone else that I loved, and though disappointed, they both swore eternal friendship with me. I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Dearest Arthur, I am very, very happy to have such a lover, such a friend, and such a husband to be. Your loving Lucy. Dr. Seward's diary. 25th of April. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Oh, Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor with Arthur, whose happiness is yours. I know that the only cure for this sort of thing is work. So I shall go down among my patients and pick out one to study. There is one I have determined to understand. R.M. Renfield, who experiences regular periods of gloom, ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out. A possibly dangerous man. I shall question him more fully to learn the facts of his hallucinations. Quincy has written to invite me to supper with Arthur. We shall mingle our weeps over the wine cup and drink a health to the happiest man in all the wide world. In the meantime, work, work. Mina Harker's journal, 24th of July, Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent, in which they have rooms. Lucy and I had a most interesting talk about Arthur and their coming marriage, which made me heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. Arthur is the only son of Lord Godalming, and is coming up as soon as he can leave town, for his father is seriously ill. Dr. Seward's diary, 1st of July. The case of Renfield grows ever more interesting. His hobby was catching flies and feeding them to spiders, which he keeps in a box. Now he has a new pet, a sparrow, which he has tamed by feeding it the spiders. 19th of July. My friend now has a whole colony of sparrows and has asked me to let him have a cat. When I told him it would not be possible, he looked suddenly fierce, the look of an undeveloped homicidal maniac. 20th of July. Visited Renfield this morning and found him humming a tune. Not seeing his birds, I asked him where they were. He replied that they had all flown away. The attendant has just been to say that Renfield is very sick and has disgorged a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, Doctor, he said, that he has eaten his birds raw. Mina Harker's journal, 26th of July. Yesterday, I had a line from Jonathan saying that he is just starting for home. That is not like him, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy has lately taken to walking in her sleep. Her mother and I have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. Cutting from the Daily Graph, 9th of August, Whitby. On Saturday evening, one of the greatest storms ever experienced here broke with a rapidity which seemed incredible. A little after midnight, the Coast Guard's searchlight discovered a schooner with all sails set, rushing towards the harbour. As if by a miracle, the ship found the harbour mouth and pitched herself on the sand and gravel adjacent to Tate Hill Pier. At the instant the shore was touched, an immense dog jumped from the bow onto the sand, where it disappeared in the darkness. Not a soul was found on the vessel, save for the body of the dead captain, who was fastened by his hands to the spokes of the wheel, a crucifix clutched in one hand. A doctor has ascertained that the man must have been dead for quite 2 days. The schooner is a Russian from Varna, the Demeter, with only a small amount of cargo, including a great wooden box which was consigned to a Whitby solicitor, Mr. S.F. Billington, who formerly took possession of it. The dog, which landed when the ship struck, is evidently a fierce brute, for early this morning a large dog was found in the roadway close to the churchyard with its throat torn away. No trace has ever been found of the great dog. Tomorrow will see the funeral of the dead seaman, and so will end this one more mystery of the sea. Mina Harker's journal. 8th of August. The storm last night was fearful. Strangely enough, Lucy did not wake, but got up twice and dressed herself. Fortunately, each time I managed to undress her without waking her and got her back in bed. 10th of August. The funeral of the poor sea captain today was most touching. The coffin was carried all the way from the pier up to the churchyard. Poor Lucy seemed restless and uneasy all the time, and I cannot but think that her dreaming at night is telling on her. I shall take her for a long walk to Robin Hood's Bay and back. She ought not to have much inclination for sleepwalking then. 11th of August, 3 a.m. We had a lovely walk and crept off to bed as soon as we could. I fell asleep as soon as I had watched Lucy slip off before me. Suddenly I awoke and sat up. Lucy's bed was empty, and she was not in the room. I threw on some clothes and got ready to look for her. She could not have been far, as she was only in her nightdress. Downstairs I found the hall door open. Taking a heavy shawl, I ran out. The clock was striking 1, and there was not a soul in sight. I flew along the north terrace and down to the pier and the bridge, making for the east cliff. My knees trembled as I toiled up the endless steps to the abbey. When I got to the top, I could see on our favorite seat a half-reclining figure, snowy white. It seemed as though something dark stood behind, bending over it. I called out, and something raised its head. I could see a white face and red, gleaming eyes. Lucy did not answer, and I ran on to the entrance of the churchyard. For a moment the church was between me and the seat, and I lost sight of her. When I came in view again, I could see Lucy with her head lying over the back of the seat. She was quite alone. When I bent over her, I could see that she was still asleep, breathing in long, heavy gasps. As I came close, she put up her hand and moaned, pulling the collar of her nightdress close round her throat, as though she felt the cold. I flung the warm shawl over her and fastened it at her throat with a big safety pin. When I had her carefully wrapped up, I began very gently to wake her. When she opened her eyes, she trembled and clung to me. We got home without meeting a soul, and I tucked her into bed. Before falling asleep, she implored me not to say a word to anyone, even her mother. I promised, thinking of her mother's delicate health. I have locked the door, and the key is tied to my wrist. Lucy is sleeping soundly, and dawn is coming. I was sorry to notice that my clumsiness with the safety pin hurt her, for the skin of her throat was pierced by 2 little red points, like pinpricks, and on the band of her nightdress was a drop of blood. 11th of August. Yesterday, Lucy slept till I woke her, and we passed a happy day. In the evening, we strolled in the casino terrace and went to bed early. Lucy fell asleep at once. I awoke in the night and found her sitting up in bed, asleep, pointing to the window. I pulled aside the blind and looked out. In the moonlight, a great bat flitted in great whirling circles, finally disappearing across the harbor towards the Abbey. When I came back from the window, Lucy was sleeping peacefully. She did not stir again all night. 14th of August. Lucy went early to bed. I saw her asleep and went out for a stroll, thinking of Jonathan. Coming home in the bright moonlight, I glanced up at our window and saw Lucy's head leaning out. She was fast asleep, and by her, seated on the windowsill, was something that looked like a good-sized bird. I ran upstairs. As I came into the room, she was moving back to her bed, still asleep, and breathing heavily. She was holding her hand to her throat, as though to protect it from cold. 17th of August. Lucy was languid and tired. She eats and sleeps well, but gets weaker day by day. I trust her feeling ill may not be from that unlucky prick of the safety pin. The tiny wounds at her throat seem larger than before. Unless they heal within a day or two, I shall insist on the doctor seeing her. Letter, Samuel F. Billington and Son, Solicitors Whitby, to Messrs. Carter Patterson and Company, London, 17th of August. Dear Sirs, herewith please receive invoice of box sent by Great Northern Railway. Same is to be delivered at Carfax, near Purfleet, immediately on receipt at King's Cross. The house is at present empty, but enclosed please find keys all labelled. Please deposit the box in the ruined chapel at the side of the mansion. Leave the keys in the main hall of the house, where the proprietor may find them. Faithfully yours, Samuel F. Billington and Son. Letter, Sister Agatha, Hospital of St. Mary, Budapest, to Mrs. Wilhelmina Parker, the 12th of August. Your husband has been under our care for nearly 6 weeks, suffering from a violent brain fever. He has had some fearful shock, and in his delirium, his ravings have been dreadful. Be careful with him, for the traces of such an illness do not lightly die away. I have no doubt that he will, in a few weeks, be all himself. Yours, with sympathy and all blessings, Sister Agatha. Mina Harker's Journal, 19th of August. At last, news of Jonathan. The dear fellow has been ill. I am to leave in the morning for Budapest to bring him home. My journey is all mapped out and my baggage ready. Dr. Seward's diary, 19th of August. Strange and sudden change in Renfield last night. At about 8 o'clock he began to sniff about, as a dog does when setting, saying repeatedly, "The master is at hand." Perhaps it's some form of religious mania which has seized him. If so, we must look out, for a strong man with a homicidal and religious mania at once might be dangerous. 20th of August. I was awakened at 2 o'clock this morning with the news that Renfield had escaped. I threw on my clothes and taking 4 men with me, I ran in the direction the patient had gone. As we broke through the trees, we saw a white figure scaling the high wall which separates our grounds from those of the deserted Carfax estate. Crossing the wall ourselves, we ran after him and found him pressed against the door of the old chapel, apparently talking to someone. As I drew near, I heard him say, "I await your commands, dear master. I am your slave." When we closed in on him, he fought like a wild beast. He is safe now, at any rate. A straight waistcoat keeps him restrained, and he is chained to the wall in the padded room. His cries are at times awful. Letter, Mina Harker, to Lucy Westenra, Budapest, 24th of August. Dearest Lucy, I found Jonathan thin and pale, a wreck of himself. He does not remember anything that has happened to him. When I arrived, he asked for his coat and withdrew from a pocket his notebook. "My dear Mina," he said, "I have had a great
You're
shock,
doing good. Mall's just a few blocks
and I
ahead.
do not know if it was all real or the dreaming of a madman. Here is my notebook. Read it if you will, but never let me know." Then he fell back exhausted. I took the book from him and told him that I would never open it unless it were for his own dear sake, or for the sake of some stern duty. I must attend to my husband. Goodbye, my dear. Your ever-loving Mina Harker. Letter, Lucy Westenra, to Mina Harker, Whitby, 30th of August. My dearest Mina, I wish you could stay with us here. This strong air would soon restore Jonathan. It has quite restored me. I am full of life and sleep well. Arthur is here, and I love him more than ever. We are to be married on the 28th of September. There he is, called. Your loving Lucy. Dr. Seward's diary, 23rd of August. Renfield grows even more interesting. His eyes having regained something of their old softness, I had released him. Tonight he managed again to escape into the grounds of the deserted house, and we found him in the same place, pressed against the old chapel door. When he saw me, he became furious, and the attendant seized him. Then a strange thing happened. After struggling violently, he suddenly grew calm. I caught the patient's eye and followed it, but could trace nothing in the moonlit sky except a big bat, which was flapping its silent and ghostly way to the west. The patient grew calmer every instant, and presently said, "You needn't tie me. I shall go quietly." Without trouble, we came back to the house. I feel there is something ominous in his calm, and shall not forget this night. Lucy Westenra's diary. Hillingham, 25th of August. Last night I seemed to be dreaming again, just as I was at Whitby. Perhaps it is the change of air, or getting home again. I tried to keep awake, but when the clock struck 12, there was a scratching and flapping at the window. I remember no more. This morning I am horribly weak, and my throat pains me. I must cheer up when Arthur comes, or he will be grieved to see me so. Letter, Arthur Homewood, to Dr. Seward, 31st of August. Dear Jack, I want you to do me a favor. Lucy is ill and is getting worse every day. I told her I should ask you to see her, and she finally consented. Come to lunch at Hillingham tomorrow at 2 o'clock. After lunch, Lucy will take an opportunity of being alone with you. I am summoned to see my father, who is worse. I am filled with anxiety. Write me fully by tomorrow's post. Arthur. Letter, Dr. Seward, to Arthur Homewood, 2nd of September. Dear old fellow, I hasten to let you know that in my opinion there is no functional disturbance or malady that I know of. At the same time, I am not by any means satisfied with Lucy's appearance, and have written to my old friend and master, Professor Van Helsing of Amsterdam, who knows as much about obscure diseases as anyone in the world. I've asked him to come over at once. He is a metaphysician and one of the most advanced scientists of his day, with the kindliest and truest heart that beats. I have full confidence in him. I shall see Lucy tomorrow again. Yours always, John Seward. Letter, Dr. Seward, to the Honourable Arthur Homewood, 3rd of September. Dear Art, Van Helsing has come. Lucy was very sweet to the Professor, although I could see the poor girl was making a hard struggle for it. I believe Van Helsing saw it too. After his examination, he drew me aside and said, "I can find no functional cause. There has been much blood lost, but her conditions are in no way anemic. The disease interests me, as does the sweet young dear, I must think." Letter, Dr. Seward, to the Honourable Arthur Homewood, 6th of September.
Like my little friend.
Dear Art, my news today is not so good. After several days of improvement, Lucy this morning had gone back a bit. Mrs. Westenra was naturally anxious, I told her that my old master, Van Helsing, was staying with me, and that I would put her in his charge conjointly with myself, so now we can come and go without alarming her. If you do not hear from me, take it for granted that I am simply waiting for news. In haste, yours ever, John Seward. Dr. Seward's Diary, 7th of September. When Van Helsing and I arrived at Hillingham, we were met by Mrs. Westenra and shown up to Lucy's room. If I was shocked when I saw her yesterday, I was horrified when I saw her today. She was ghastly, chalkily pale. Her breathing was painful to see. Van Helsing beckoned to me, and we went gently out of the room. There is no time to be lost, he said. There must be transfusion of blood at once. Is it you or me? I am younger, Professor. It must be me. As we were speaking, Arthur arrived. I introduced him to the Professor, and Van Helsing's eyes gleamed. Sir, I've come to find your dear Miss wants blood. John was to give his, but now you are here, you are better. Arthur turned to him and said, if you only knew how gladly I would die for her. Good boy, said Van Helsing. Come. We all went up to Lucy's room, and with swiftness, Van Helsing took the information. As the transfusion went on, life seemed to come back to poor Lucy's cheeks. Presently, the Professor said, it is enough. I will look to her, John. Take down our brave young lover and let him lie down a while. He must then go home and rest. When I got back to the room, Lucy was sleeping gently, and her breathing was stronger. By the bedside sat Van Helsing. As I approached, he leaned forward and loosened the black velvet band which she seemed always to wear around her neck, revealing a red mark. What do you make of that? He asked. I bent closer to examine it. Just over the external jugular vein, there were 2 punctures. I can make nothing of it, I said. The Professor stood up. I must go back to Amsterdam tonight, he said. There are books and things there which I want. You must remain here, keep watch all night, and see that nothing disturbs her. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we may begin. Begin? I said. What on earth do you mean? We shall see, he answered, as he hurried out. 8th of September. Towards dusk, Lucy awakened. I then made preparations for my long vigil. Lucy did not in any way make objection, but looked at me gratefully whenever I caught her eye. After a long spell of restlessness, she fell asleep.
Do it.
All night long, she slept tranquilly and never stirred. In the morning, I took myself back home, after sending a short wire to Van Helsing and to Arthur, telling them of the excellent result of the operation. Whilst I was at dinner, a telegram came from Van Helsing in Amsterdam suggesting that I should be again at Hillingham tonight, and stating that he would join me early in the morning. 9th of September. I was pretty tired when I got to Hillingham. When Lucy shook hands with me, she looked sharply in my face and said, "No sitting up tonight for you. You are worn out. I am quite well again." She then took me upstairs and showed me a room next to her own. "You must stay here," she said. "I shall leave this door open. If I want anything, I shall call out." I could not but acquiesce. I lay on the sofa and forgot all about everything. 10th of September. I was conscious of the Professor's hand on my head and awoke in a second. "How is our patient?" "Well," when she left me. "Come, let us see," he said, and together we went into the room. The blind was down. As I raised it, I heard the Professor's exclamation of horror. "Gott in Himmel!" On the bed, seemingly in a swoon, lay poor Lucy, more horribly white and wan-looking than ever. Van Helsing felt her heart. "It is not too late," he said. "Our work is undone. We must begin again. There is no young Arthur here now. I have to call on you this time, friend John." Without a moment's delay, we began the operation. As the transfer was made, I could see a faint tinge of color fade back into the pallid cheeks and lips. Lucy slept well into the day, and when she woke, she was fairly well and strong, though not nearly so much so as the day before. When Van Helsing had seen her, he went out for a walk. I could hear his voice in the hall, asking the way to the nearest telegraph office. When he returned, he said to me, Go home and make yourself strong. I shall stay here tonight and sit up with little miss. I got back here in time for a late dinner. 11th of September. This afternoon I went over to Hillingham, found Van Helsing in excellent spirits and Lucy much better. Shortly after I arrived, a big parcel from abroad came for the professor. He opened it and showed a great bundle of white flowers. "These are for you, Miss Lucy," he said. "They are medicines." Here, Lucy made a wry face. "Dr. Van Helsing, you are joking. These flowers are only common garlic." To my surprise, Van Helsing said sternly, "I never jest. There is grim purpose in all I do." Then he went on more gently. "Little miss, I only do for your good. There is much virtue in these common flowers. I shall place them in your room and make myself the wreath that you are to wear. Come, John. You shall help me deck the room with my Harlem garlic." We went into the bedroom, taking the flowers with us. Van Helsing fastened up the windows and latched them securely. Next, taking a handful of the flowers, he rubbed them all over the sashes, the jamb of the door, and round the fireplace. "Professor, you puzzle me," I said. "I would almost say you are working some spell to keep out an evil spirit." "Perhaps I am," he answered quietly. Then he began to make a wreath of the garlic which, when Lucy was in bed, he himself fixed round her neck. The last words he said to her were, "Take care you do not disturb it. And even if the room feels close, do not tonight open the window or the door." As we left the house, Van Helsing said, "Tonight I can sleep in peace. Tomorrow morning early you call for me and we will come together to see our pretty miss." 13th of September. When Van Helsing and I arrived at Hillingham, Mrs. Westerner greeted us warmly and said, "The dear child is still asleep. I was anxious about her in the night and went into her room. She was sleeping soundly, but the room was awfully stuffy. There were a lot of those horrible, strong-smelling flowers about everywhere. I took them all away and opened a window to let in a little fresh air. You will be pleased with her, I am sure." As she had spoken, the professor's face turned ashen grey. We went immediately to Lucy's room. Once again, I drew the blind whilst Van Helsing went to the bed. The poor face had the same awful waxen pallor as before. "As I expected," he murmured. Without a word, he began to set out on the little table the instruments for yet another transfusion of blood. "Today, you must operate," he said. "I shall provide." Again the operation. Again some return of the color to the ashy cheeks and the regular breathing of healthy sleep. When we had concluded, Van Helsing took Mrs. Westerner aside and told her that she must never remove anything from Lucy's room without consulting him. Then he took over the care of the case himself, saying that he would watch this night and the next and would send me word when to come. Lucy Westerner was dying. 17th of September. 4 days and nights of peace. I am getting strong again, and the bad dreaming seems to have passed away. I have grown quite fond of the garlic, and a boxful arrives for me every day from Haarlem. Tonight, Dr. Van Helsing is going away for a day to Amsterdam. Thank God I am well enough to be left alone. The Pall Mall Gazette, 18th of September. The escaped wolf. At around midnight yesterday, a great grey Norwegian wolf escaped from its cage at the Zoological Gardens under mysterious circumstances. The bars of the cage had been broken and twisted, possibly by raiders, for earlier in the evening, a tall man was seen lurking around the cages. Whatever the point of the raid, it must have miscarried, as the following morning, the wolf returned of its own accord and offered itself up to keepers. Whilst on the loose, the poor creature had suffered some accident, as its head was cut and the fur full of broken glass. The wounds, however, were not serious, and the fierce beast is once again on view in its cage. Telegram, Van Helsing, Antwerp, to Seaward, Carfax. Sent to wrong address and delivered late by 22 hours. 17th of September. Do not fail to be at Hillingham tonight. Very important. Shall be with you tomorrow morning. Memorandum left by Lucy Weston. 17th of September. Night. This is an exact record of what took place that night. I have barely strength to write, but it must be done. I went to bed as usual and soon fell asleep. I was waked by the flapping at the window, which now I know so well. I was not afraid, but I did wish that Dr. Seward was in the next room, as Dr. Van Helsing said he would be. Then outside in the shrubbery, I heard a sort of howl, like a dog's, but fiercer and deeper. I went to the window and looked out, but could see nothing except a big bat, which had evidently been buffeting its wings against the window. I went back to bed again, determined to keep awake. Presently Mother came in to see that I was all right. I feared she might catch cold sitting there, and asked her to lay down beside me. After a while, there was the low howl again out in the shrubbery, and then a crash at the window. In the aperture of the broken panes was the head of a great grey wolf. Mother cried out and struggled into a sitting posture, pointing at the wolf. Then there was a horrible gurgling in her throat, and she fell over. I kept my eyes fixed on the window. The wolf drew his head back, and then a whole myriad of little specks seemed to come blowing in, wheeling and circling round like a pillar of dust. Now I am alone, with dear Mother's lifeless body. The air seems full of specks. I shall hide this paper in my breast. Goodbye, dear Arthur. God help me.
It looks like the security doors to the roof are closed, but if you destroy those servers, their emergency protocol should automatically unlock the doors.
Dr. Seward's diary, 18th of September. After receiving Van Helsing's delayed telegram this morning, I drove at once to Hillingham, left my cab at the gate and walked up the avenue alone. Seconds later, another cab arrived, and Van Helsing ran up to join me. When we reached the house, we knocked and rang, but there was no response. Passing around to the back, we forced a kitchen window and let ourselves in. Then we ascended to Lucy's room. How shall I describe what we saw? On the bed lay Lucy and her mother. Mrs. Weston was dead, her face with a look of terror, frozen of horror.
Oh, shit.
By her side lay Lucy, white and drawn. Her throat was